Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down the fundamental technologies that actually make the web work. We're going to look at that invisible conversation that happens every single time you pull up a website.
So let's start with a really simple question. You type an address into your browser, you hit enter, and like magic, a website appears. But have you ever stopped to wonder what's really going on behind the scenes to make that happen?
Well, at its very core, it's just a conversation. Your web browser, which in the tech world we call the client, asks for a web page. And somewhere out on the internet, a super powerful computer called a server gets that request and sends the page right back. All of web technology is really just the set of rules and languages they use to have that chat. Now, to really get a grip on this conversation, we need to split the entire web world into two very distinct parts. There's the side you see and interact with, and then there's the side that does all the heavy lifting in the background. So on one side, you have the client side. This is everything that happens on your device, in your browser. It's the front end, the text, the images, the buttons you click. Then you have the server side. This is the back end, the powerhouse that's running the show, managing all the data and figuring out what to send back to you. It's basically the website's brain. Okay, so let's dig into the client side first. Your web browser is incredibly smart, but it's really only fluent in 3 core technologies. And these 3 work together to build almost every single web page you've ever laid eyes on. First up is HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. The best way to think about this is as the skeleton of the web page. It provides the raw structure and content. It's the language that tells the browser, hey, this chunk of text is a heading, or this part is a paragraph, or this should be a link. But, a skeleton by itself is pretty boring. To give it some style, the clothes, the colors, the design, we need CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS is what makes a web page look good. It controls all the visual stuff, like the colors, the fonts, and the layout of all that HTML content. And finally, to make the page actually do stuff, we need JavaScript. So if HTML is the skeleton and CSS is the style, think of JavaScript as the muscles and the nervous system. It's what adds all the interactivity, making it possible to have animations, pop-up menus, and even complex games right in your browser. All right, let's flip the coin and talk about the other side of the conversation, the server. This is the engine room. While the front end is everything you see, the back end is where all the really complex work happens, and it's powered by languages that run on the server, not in your browser. As you can see, there are a ton of different languages for the server side, and each one has its own strengths. PHP, for example, was literally built from the ground up just for the web. Node.js is super interesting because it lets developers use JavaScript, the same language from the front end, on the back end. That's why big companies like Netflix use it. And then you have languages like Python, which is famous for being easy to read, or Java, which is an absolute workhorse for massive applications. But even the most powerful server is useless if it can't remember anything. It needs a place to store all its data, user profiles, blog posts, product info, all of it. And that's where databases come in. Think of them as the website's perfectly organized digital pantry. And these databases are basically just highly structured storage systems. You've got relational databases like MySQL, which store data in neat tables, kind of like a spreadsheet. That's perfect when consistency is super important. Then you have others, like MongoDB, that are more flexible, storing data in document-like structures, which is great for applications that need to grow and change really fast. Okay, so we've got the front end, the back end, and the database all working in harmony. But to really get how this all starts, let's zoom all the way back in on that very first, most fundamental piece the server sends your browser, the HTML file. Let's actually look at the code. All right, here it is. And I know if you've never seen code before, this might look a little intimidating. But trust me, this simple block of text has all the instructions your browser needs to build a web page. Let's go through it step by step. So every HTML page starts with this foundation. That very first line, doctype HTML, is just a declaration. It's like shouting to the browser, hey, get ready, a modern HTML5 document is coming your way. And right after that, the HTML tag acts as the main container for the entire page. Everything else is going to be nested inside of this. Now, this next section, the head, is really interesting because it contains all the important information that you don't actually see on the web page itself. It's metadata. For example, that title tag right there, that's what tells the browser what text to put in the little tab at the very top of your screen. So in total contrast to the head, the body tag is where the magic happens. This is the main stage. It's the container for every single thing you can see on the web page. Every heading, every paragraph, every image, it all lives right here. And finally, inside the body, we get to the actual content. These tags tell the browser how it should display things. So the H1 tag defines a large, important heading, and the P tag is for a standard paragraph. When your browser reads this, it knows exactly what to do. Show the first line as big, bold text and the second line as normal text right below it. And you know what the best part is? You have everything you need to create this exact web page right now, on the very computer you're using. You don't need any fancy or expensive software at all. I'm serious. Just open a basic text editor like Notepad on Windows or TextEdit on a Mac. Type out that HTML code we just looked at, then just save the file as something like mypage.html, that .html part is the key, and then just double-click it. It'll open right up in your browser. And that's it. You've made a web page. So now you understand the basic building blocks. You get the whole conversation between the client and the server, you know the front-end trio of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you even know how to read the structure of a basic HTML tag. You've officially taken the first step into a much, much larger world. So the only real question left is, what are you going to create first?